So why don't you tell me a little bit about why you founded Pet Living Wills?
Well, David, I had a very difficult experience. As you can see from both Sophie over there and Joe, our horses live out here in a great pasture, and I invited my friend to board her horse with us because she lived in town. And the horses have grown older together, and she had a pretty old horse. And one day the horse was down, and I looked at the horse and I knew it had colic. And I tried to call my friend, and I found out that she had gone hiking in the mountains. And with colic, you have to make some pretty fast decisions, and it has very serious consequences for horses, as anyone who has a horse knows. So I called the veterinarian and I said, you know, Serena, that was my friend's horse's name. Serena's down and she's got, looks like colic. And so I said, she's 23, and I know that my friend had told me once that she didn't want at that age to put her through anything. And I said, well, but I wasn't quite prepared to make the obvious decision that I had to make, which was without colic surgery, he had to come look at her, but the chances weren't so good because of her age. So he came up and he looked at me, he said, MaryEllen, there's really not much we can do unless we're going to operate, and her age is too old to really ensure that she'd even survive the operation. So I said, well, I don't know exactly what to do, because my friend is now hiking in the mountains with her husband, and he, if anything, would be the co-owner. And I said, the only thing I can do is try to reach her through her daughter, and her daughter was in Colorado, and was in veterinarian school at the time at Colorado State. And I said, I don't have her number. And so through a lot of issues, the veterinarian and I decided, well, we just go ahead and put the horse down, and because the horse was having a hard time, and there's really no choice. We knew that the likelihood of recovery from an operation was just not in the cards. So I kept calling my friend, and the veterinarian was wonderful, and he understood that the horse had boarded here a long time, and he kind of took the responsibility. He said, well, if you make that call, he said, I'll do it, because I think it's the best thing for the horse's age and the condition. And so just as we were about to put the horse down, my friend got back to me, because I'd left so many messages in so many places. And I said, you know, I hate to tell you the news, and I know it's going to be hard, but this is it. And she said, MaryEllen, I understand. Go ahead and put her down. And I'm sorry I can't say goodbye, but it really is the right thing. And afterwards, it was a very emotional experience when my going through all of this. And afterwards, I said to my friend, you know, if I had just had something that could kind of given me some official direction that I could have given to the veterinarian, and he and I could have come to the same conclusion, but knowing that it was your wish to have something done this way, it would have been a lot easier emotionally, I think, on us both. And she said, well, I suppose that's true. And so I started to think about it a while, and I talked to the veterinarian. I said, how often do you have to make these judgment calls on providing care without directly talking to the person who owns the animal? And he said, you know, it's more and more the case that people go on vacation, they're out of the country, they board with us, or they board with people downtown, and they said, you know, what they tend to do is just say, contact the veterinarian. But they haven't told us what that means. They just say, contact us, and then we're left making life and death decisions, or decisions about care that really involve significant resources. So that if a veterinarian is asked about the pet goat, he might say, if for that goat to be normal or have a normal life is going to require a very expensive operation, maybe $1,800, $2,000. And he said, as the veterinarian told me, he said, if it were up to me, I probably wouldn't have made that decision. But he said, oftentimes people do want to go ahead with that kind of expense because it's something they love. So I wrote up an article thinking about all of this and thinking about the fact that veterinarians are called on to do these things without any written instruction or advice or even consent. They make life and death decisions. They make healthcare decisions. And I thought, why don't we have something like a pet living will, just as we do for people in the hospital these days? Why don't we do that for the animals we love? And Equus published that article. And I had several people contact me, how do I get a pet living will? And I had given them some instructions in the article, but it just didn't seem quite formal enough, and it didn't have a way to set it up with the veterinarians. So when we decided, you, David, and Paul Gladden, to get together and try to make this happen for people, I felt really good about what we were doing.